This is going to be a lecture, but I got very tired of lectures. I really got very, very tired of lectures already. I've only been here for a week. That which I see to be much more beneficial is to discuss that which is going to perfect our acts of worship. The way I look at lectures is like paracetamol. When you are sick and you have paracetamol, what does that do, guys? It's a quick fix. It is a quick fix. You might have some underlying issues. Like for example, myself, I've been having these underlying stomach problems for a very, very long time. Very long time. I think 3 Ramadans in a row, I did not complete fasting 30 days. I'm still making it up right now because of my stomach problems. I went to the GP, the general practitioner, and they gave me something called antiprazonal or something like that. What this would do is it would remove the pain that I was experiencing in the month of Ramadan. However, it would keep on coming back. It would keep on coming back. All the way up until when I was in Egypt, my appendix burst and I got rushed into hospital. I really thought I was going to die. I was on my deathbed because of these underlying issues that weren't treated accordingly. And last Ramadan, I only fasted for 5 days. 5 days only. Because of the appendix bursting, stomach issues, and so on and so forth. Why am I mentioning all of this? These quick fixes that we have, like paracetamol, the lectures, what the lecture does is, it increases your iman. Walala, you walk out feeling, mashallah, that was such a great lecture. My iman went up. And then why is it that sometimes our iman just keeps going down again? That is simply because we are not taking the treatment that keeps our iman stable. It's as simple as that. That's why you need lessons. You need to keep learning, attending gatherings where you better your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every single one of us has been placed on the face of this earth for one reason. What is that one reason? من يخبرني؟ نعم جزاك الله خير. وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. I did not create the jinn and the ins except to worship me alone. Our sole reason of existence is for that one purpose, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And can you worship Allah Azza wa Jalla accordingly without knowledge? Wallahi, you can't. Otherwise we're going to become like the Christians. The Christians who worshipped Allah with ignorance. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. They were misguided upon ignorance. This is why you find the church, every now and again they have something new. The rules and regulations just keep on changing. Why? Ignorance. Misguided individuals. You see, that's why it's extremely important that we learn the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These lectures are great, don't get me wrong. It ups your iman and you need it from time to time. But the studies, the continuous ones, that's what you need. Our sole purpose is what? Remember that, ibadah. Not going to university or working. That's not why you've been created. Not that I'm saying you shouldn't do that. I'm not against doing any of the things that I just mentioned. I myself was doing civil engineering in Loughborough University. However, brothers and sisters, if you graduate from university, how old are you normally? 21, 22. Billahi alayk, I ask you by Allah Azza wa Jal. The age of 21, 22, and then you pass away. What on earth is that certificate going to do for you? Is it going to enter into your grave? And I reiterate it, I am not against getting an education. If anything, I encourage it. However, you study about Pythagoras' theorem and condensation, alliteration, evaporation, and all that stuff, but then you don't know the basis of your religion. Isn't that unfair, brothers and sisters? The majority of our life just goes towards that. In the last year and a half, brothers and sisters, I see a lot of brothers, the age of, I think everybody, well, mostly, are under the age of 25. Some elders, old in age, but the majority are under the age of 25. ولا لا? صحيح? Just in the last year and, let me just say the last 2 years, I have lost 3 young relatives, all under the age of 24. Those who may have been having iftar with me last Ramadan or the Ramadan before that will not be having iftar. There's going to be a hole in that sitting. There's going to be a gap there. And that is because they are no longer with us. Just to show you, brothers and sisters, that death does not discriminate between the different ages. It doesn't. One of them was my younger brother at the age of 24, stabbed in the neck in Leicester. A couple of months after that was who? A cousin of mine. Car crash, age of 23. I buried both of them with my 2 hands. I did the reminder at their graves. Young in age. The third one, brothers and sisters, I was told about him when I went back to study in Al-Medina. I happened to be doing Umrah at the time. My body froze. And how old he was? 18 years of age. You know what happened? Stabbed in the chest. In broad daylight, on one of the most busiest roads in Birmingham, Coventry Road, Small Heath. تفضل شيخ.
Just, I'm very sorry to do this, but I'm very sorry to do this, but and T12 IY, please, and brother, please, you have blocked the entrance for the main entrance for the masjid, and the other one is LO18 ODY. There's 2 brothers who wanted to go. Please, please, if you know you block someone, inshallah, before the lecture starts, you should have moved your car. The first one is T12IYUS, and the other one is inshallah ta'ala those cars. Please, if you have those cars, please move your car. Jazakallah.
I'm mentioning this, brothers and sisters, not that you feel sorry for me. No, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, "Kafa bil mauti wa'idha." It is sufficient that death is a reminder for you. Somebody passing away is a reminder for us to really pick ourselves up and to do something about ourselves. Don't expect, 70, 80 years old, that's when I'm going to pass away. Wallah, you have no guarantee. Absolutely no guarantee. A couple of years ago, I done a khutbah about Muhammad Ali, the famous boxer. I think everybody knows him, right? Sahih? Some of you guys are still young. He was like maybe this is a wrong comparison, Anthony Joshua. There's no comparison between them of this time. He was a renowned world champion. He died just before the month of Ramadan. Just before the month of Ramadan. He didn't have the opportunity to breathe in the month of Ramadan. Wallah, he didn't have the opportunity. And many people in the last year or two with this COVID, they passed away just before the month of Ramadan. As I mentioned, brothers, these 3 young relatives that I had, all under the age of 24, they left and departed from this world. 2 of them stabbed, the other one in a car crash. The reality is, what kind of legacy are you leaving behind? What are you studying? What are you doing in order to better your relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal? Are we going to meet another Ramadan? One statement that always touches my heart. There's a statement of Ibn al-Jawzi rahmatullahi alayhi. He says, إذا قيل لأهل القبور تمنوا لتمنوا يوما في رمضان. If it was said to the people of the qubur, the grave, make a wish. You know what that wish would be? They would wish to have another day in the month of Ramadan. Another day in the month of Ramadan. SubhanAllah, I always wondered, why did he say that? And one time I came across a statement of Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, when he said, صوم في رمضان أفضل من ألف صوم فيما سواه. One day that you fast in the month of Ramadan is better than 1,000 fasts outside the month of Ramadan. One prayer in the month of Ramadan, one rak'ah, is better than 1,000 rak'ah outside the month of Ramadan. And in order for us to really take optimum and maximum benefit from the month of Ramadan, we need to know how to do that. أليس كذلك? We need to know how to do that. And you cannot do that, my brothers and my sisters, except by studying. Always remember this. If you don't take anything away from this lecture, other than this one thing I'm about to say, because that will help you, inshallah, always come back. Is it fair that you spend so many hours a day, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, at times, even more than that, learning about mathematics, English, science, the Pythagoras theorem, and the periodic table, C2O, H2O, you've got it memorized inside out. But then the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, I barely give it any time. Is that really fair? And then I might be from the growing list of brothers and sisters who have passed away at the age of 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Our Shaykh, may Allah Azza wa Jal bless him and preserve him, he said, على العبد أن يتعلم أحكام الصيام حتى تقع منه العبادة على وجه كاملة أو على الوجه الكامل. It is upon the abd to learn the ahkam, the rulings pertaining to that which he's embarking upon, so that he's able to establish it properly in the most complete way. حتى تقع منه العبادة كاملة. You know the hadith that we hear all the time, when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, من قام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. Who can tell me the meaning of that hadith? Or that which is apparent from the hadith? من قام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. Who can give me a translation for it? Just translate the beginning part for me. من قام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا. Because you have the other hadith as well. من صام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. Whoever fasts in the month of Ramadan with iman, يعني مصدقا بوعد الله. He believes in the reward that Allah Azza wa Jalla is waiting for him. أي وكذلك احتسابا ابتغاء وجه الله. Hoping for the face of Allah. He does it sincerely. His past sins will be forgiven. That's whoever fasts. And then there's another hadith that's very similar to it that states من قام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا. Whoever قام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا. ما معنى؟ Whoever prays, right? صحيح? Which translates to be whoever stands praying the night prayer. صحيح? With iman and also ihtisab, his past sins will be forgiven. Does everybody agree? And that's right, it's correct. You know what another meaning that Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullahi alayhi favored? If I say now in Arabic, أنا قمت بهذا العمل أو هو قام بهذا العمل, what does that mean? Huh?
I did this action.
Yeah, he carried out this act. هو قام بهذا العمل. The meaning that he favored was whoever walks into the month of Ramadan and he carries it out the way it should, with iman and ihtisab, his past sins will be forgiven. This is the view that Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullahi alayhi favored. Even though what our brother mentioned is sahih. But you could also understand it like that. What does that show us? لا بد أن تتعلم. You must learn the ahkam of الصيام before doing the act of worship. What does the poet say? ويحرم إقدام من المكلف على أمور حكمها لم يعرف. It is haram for one to embark upon doing an act of worship and he doesn't know its ahkam. Some people, they buy and sell, sah? He's a big investor. Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that. I don't know how well Bitcoin is doing, but last time I heard he went down into the ground. Sahih? How's it doing now? It's not doing well, huh? It's doing alright. Forex trade and this and that and investing in this, investing in that. Stock exchange and so on and so forth. Wallahi, brothers and sisters, you'll be surprised. How many of them even know what they're doing? The amount of haram that he's falling into. The war that he's waging with Allah Azza wa Jal. What was the line of poetry that I just mentioned? وَيَحْرُمُ إِقْدَامٌ مِنَ الْمُكَلَّفِ عَلَى أُمُورِ الْحُكْمَ لَمْ يَعْرِفِ. It's haram for you to go and do something and you don't know its ahkam. You must learn. There are certain types of knowledge, brothers, that you must learn. It is mandatory upon everyone. And that is because you find yourself involved in it. Like tahara, siyam and salah, fasting, praying. Isn't that something that everybody does? Everybody does that. So you must go out, at least learn the things that is mandatory upon you because you are involved in it. However, Hajj, I wouldn't say to you, you must learn it now until it becomes mandatory upon you. Either you learn it properly or you go with somebody who's going to guide you A to Z. Every Ramadan, I receive messages of brothers saying, Wallahi, I heard that me having sexual intercourse with my wife in the month of Ramadan is not allowed. I didn't know that though. You ask him, how many times did you do it? He goes, Wallahi, every other night in the month of Ramadan. They're taking it lightly, doing zina in the month of Ramadan. And he doesn't know how much of a serious thing this is. Every single Ramadan, I receive questions. Oh, I committed zina. Wallah, I feel like this. And a lot of it goes back to what? Jahl. And some say, I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know the expiation. لا ما في عذر. No excuse. He knows it's wrong, but he doesn't know the expiation. What's the expiation? حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه جاء رجل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال يا رسول أهلكت وفي رواية هلكت وفي رواية احترقت. A man came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم and said, O Messenger of Allah, I've destroyed myself. And in some narration, I've burnt myself, meaning I've burnt myself in hellfire. So the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم asked him, what did you do? He said, وقعت على امرأتي. I had sexual intercourse with my wife. Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم said to him, فهل تجد ما تعتق رقبة? Do you have that which you can free a slave with? Because لا. فهل تستطيع أن تصوم فهل تجد ما تطعم 60 مسكينا? Are you able to feed 60 poor? Because لا. Then the third thing he said to him, فهل تستطيع أن تصوم شهرين متتابعين? Are you able to fast 2 months in a row? أحكام مترتبة على مثل هذه الأمور. It's pretty serious. First thing that I'm going to discuss inshallah ta'ala is ما معنى رمضان? Have you ever thought about what Ramadan is? What does it mean? من يجيب? تفضل يا جماعة, don't be shy. It's okay to get it wrong. What is the meaning of Ramadan? To abstain. Is that what Siyam means or Ramadan? طيب, anyone else? Scholars, they say, like Ibn Mandur al-Lughawi, إذا اشتد حر جوف الإنسان, when the throat of an individual becomes hot, من شدة العطش, because of him being extremely thirsty. You look at the root letters Ramadan, when something intensifies, right? And it becomes extremely hot. That's why you find the hadith, Salatul Awwabin Hina Tarmadul Fisal. The Salat of the Awwabin. Which Salat are we referring to here? Salatul Awwabin? Salatul Duha. The best time to pray it is when it becomes extremely hot on the ground, that even a camel can't sit down. So it comes from something intensifying or becoming extremely, extremely hot. And Ramadan, when you fast, that's what it does to a person's throat, sah? Also, Imam al-Qurtubi rahmatullahi alayhi in his tafsir, he says, الرمضان إنما سمي رمضان لأنه إيش؟ يرمض الذنوب أي يحرقها. It was only called Ramadan because it burns your sins. It burns, i.e. it removes it. هذا معنى رمضان. These are some of the meanings that I mentioned. That brings me on to another important point. Leaving off fasting. I feel like leaving off fasting is not discussed enough. Again, especially on a hot summer day, I find a lot of brothers and sisters, I feel like it's become more widespread in the pandemic. Again, common question. Oh, what happens if someone just decides to break it because it's hot? Oh, it's long hours, I'm just going to fast outside the month of Ramadan. As time goes on, this is not surprising, my brothers and my sisters, to receive these kind of questions. ماذا قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من أشراط الساعة أن يقل العلم ويظهر الجهل. From the signs of the hour is that ilm becomes extremely scarce. It lessens as time goes on. And ignorance becomes so widespread. ويظهر الزنا. And zina becomes so prevalent as well. Do you guys agree? Forget about men and women doing things together outside of marriage. We got rainbows. We got rainbows flying high. Wallahi, subhanallah. One time my auntie was at home and she had sandals. And just, the top part like that, top of the sandal, had rainbow colors. Wallahi, made me feel uncomfortable. That even, subhanallah, creation of Allah Azza wa Jal now, this is what it's done to us. Because of how it's been misused. Find even what? The zebra crossing has been turned into rainbow colors. If Muslims are not engaging it, but what's happening is, they're becoming desensitized to it. Would you guys agree with that? Feeling extremely, extremely apologetic and empathetic and sympathetic and to those who might be engaging in that. What did the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say? أخوف ما أخاف عليكم عمل قوم لوط. That which I fear for you the most is the actions of the people of Lut. I'm just quoting what the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said. I'm just quoting. As long as I'm quoting, I don't think I can get into trouble with that. طيب. ما حكم من ترك رمضان صيام رمضان? What is the ruling of the one who leaves off fasting in the month of Ramadan? What do you guys think? Minor sin, major sin, disbelief? Major sin or minor sin? Or it's just an adi sin? Major sin. Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullahi alayhi says, من أفطر في رمضان بغير عذر كان تفويته له من الكبائر. Whoever leaves or whoever breaks his fast in the month of Ramadan without an excuse, then him doing so has led him to the major sins. I found a statement of Imam al-Dhahabi rahmatullahi alayhi that's even more serious than that. Wallahi, it shook me when I read it. You know what he said? وَعِنْدَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ مُقَرَّرٌ. أن من ترك صيام رمضان أو من أفطر في رمضان بغير عذر أنه شر من الزاني ومدمن الخمر. The one who breaks his fast in the month of Ramadan without an excuse, he's worse than someone who commits zina. And also somebody who's addicted to al-khamr, alcohol. You laugh, صح, when that guy is just dropping left and right. خمريستو ودعدعويو. He's just falling left, right and center. صحيح? Find it funny. Look at him. One who's breaking his fast worse than that. يقول الإمام الذهبي رحمة الله عليه. And you have the hadith of الإمام أبي إمامة الباهلي رضي الله تعالى عنه. He said, I heard the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم say, بينما أنا نائم أتاني رجلان فأخذا بضبعية أو بضبعية. I heard the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم say, when I was sleeping, two men came to me and they took me by my sides. They were grabbing him from here and they took him. فأتيا بي جبلا وعرا, and they took me to a very steep mountain. فقال اصعد, they told me to climb it. فقلت إني لا أطيق, because of how steep it is, the Messenger said, I can't, I don't have the ability to get to the top. فقال, so they said, إنا سنسهله عليك, we'll make it easy for you, don't worry, we'll help you. فصعدت حتى إذا كنت في سواء الجبل, I carried on walking until we reached the midpoint of it. إذا أنا بأصوات شديدة, I began to hear some very, very severe sounds. قلت ما هذه الأصوات? What are these noises? قالوا هذا عواء أهل النار. These are the screams and the cries of the people of the hellfire. ثم انطلق بي فإذا أنا بقوم معلقين بعراقيبهم مشققة أشداقهم أو مشققة أشداقهم. He said, they took me and I came across certain individuals who had their ankles chained and the corner of their mouths were torn. تسيل أشداقهم دما, and blood was pouring out of it. قلت من هؤلاء? Who are they? I said. قال الذين يفطرون قبل أن ينتهي صومهم. They are the ones who break their fast before the time has kicked in. I'll say it again. They are the ones who break their fast before the time has kicked in. Just a minute ago I was speaking about not fasting or leaving off the fasting without an udhr. How does this hadith come in relevance to that? I'll tell you guys. If this is the punishment for the one who breaks it before its time, then how about the person that doesn't even fast? Or decides not to fast? Or takes the matter extremely lightly? Takes the matter extremely, extremely lightly. Second thing is, ما معنى الصوم? What does صوم mean? الإمساك. لغة, he has a لغة and he also has a technical meaning. The لغة, the linguistic meaning is what? الإمساك. To withhold from something. If I say to you, you need to do صوم or siyam from your phone, what does that mean? That you need to abstain from it, that you need to withhold from it. And then you have the technical meaning. But before we go into the technical meaning, every single one of us needs to act upon the linguistic meaning, especially in today's day and age. Again, I feel like that this is not discussed enough. One of the things, my brothers and my sisters, and unfortunately I have to say this, and I don't know the ilm al-ghayb, I don't know the unseen, but I'm sure most of you will agree with me, that from the things that are going to destroy our Ramadan is what? our phones. Wallahi al-azim. Al-imsak, brothers, to withhold in the month of Ramadan is two things. Things that we need to withhold from are of two types. Number one, that which is going to nullify our fast. If you were to fall into it, then you would have to repeat that day. And of course, these are the obvious things like what? Food, drink, sexual intercourse. And according to the Hanabila, hijama. The majority of the scholars, they say it doesn't. Right? And many other things as well. I think most of you guys are Shafi'i, صح? طيب, لا بس. And then you have another type. And this is what I really want to stand over, brothers. The spiritual side of what one needs to stay away from. That which is going to reduce your fast. And again, it's not discussed enough. Two things we mentioned. That which is going to what? Nullify your fast, and that which is going to reduce it. And this, perhaps, my brothers and my sisters, is the real type of fasting. That which we are really trying to gain from the month of Ramadan. ماذا قال جابر رضي الله تعالى عنه in the Musannaf ibn Abi Shaybah? He said, إذا صمت فليصم سمعك وبصرك ولسانك عن الكذب والمآثم. When you do fast, then make sure your ears are fasting as well. Make sure your eyes are fasting. Make sure your tongue is fasting from what? عن الكذب والمآثم. From lying and all sorts of sins. Your ears, what you listen to. Music, haram. And not just music. A lot of time when we talk about you need to safeguard your ear, that which rushes the mind is what? Music. Now also from what? Backbiting, slander. These videos that we watch that have people swearing and talking profanity. All of that needs to be stayed away from. من لم يدع قول الزور والعمل به فليس لله حاجة أن يدع طعامه وشرابه. Allah is not in need of you leaving off your food and your drink. He's not. One who's not leaving off قول الزور والعمل به, ill talk, and also acting upon it. And Allah Azza wa Jal will put this individual to the side. Turn away from him. So that which you what? Listen to. Second thing that Jabir Abdullah radiallahu ta'ala anhu mentioned was فَلْيَصُمْ سَمْعُكَ وَبَصَرُكَ, your eyes. You know, a lot of these zina cases that we come across, especially in the month of Ramadan, you know how it started? Take a guess, brothers. How do you think it started? Imagine he's falling into zina in the month of Ramadan with a woman that he didn't know prior to Ramadan. How do you think it started, brothers? Social media. More specifically, Instagram. But now I'm sure TikTok is playing a big part in that as well. I always say this, right? And I've said it before. I really do not believe someone who believes in Allah in the last day should have TikTok. We don't put TikTok in the same category as Instagram, ولا حتى Snapchat and Twitter. Because it's an app that was created for one to record himself wriggling his body with music playing in the background. Would you guys agree? That's the reason as to why it was created. So he sees this sister or this girl on social media, especially on Instagram or any of these other social media apps. And then before you know it, he's slipping into a DM. Some guys say, I was giving a da'wah. Wallahi, she ended up giving you da'wah. You didn't give her that, she gave you da'wah. And that's how it starts. What did the Messenger of Allah say? Zina al-aynayn al-nazar wa zina al-lisan al-nutq. The zina of the two eyes is what? Looking more than just the first glance. And the zina with the tongue is what? Talking. As some of you may say, chirping. I don't know if you guys still use it, or it's out of date. It's a little bit old school. You guys still say it? Huh? What's the other word? Checking. Everyone still says it. Huh?
I think he said lotion.
Understand. That's how it starts. That's already you've entered into a process of zina. And then before you know it, they've fallen into the unexpected, which is what? Az-zina. Are you brothers and sisters with me? We need to do sawm from what? From our phones. And then walisanuk. And your tongue as well. One of the khutbahs that I gave last week was about April Fool's Day. 1 week before Ramadan. You'd normally expect that the khatib is going to speak about Ramadan and getting prepared for Ramadan. What's the relevance between April Fool's Day and also the month of Ramadan? Huh? They're in the same month. Anything other than that? Lying. I think you watched the lecture, sir. Do you know, brothers and sisters, right? It may be a possibility that one enters into the month of Ramadan and he's not even a Muslim. Because of April Fool's Day. Who can tell me how? من يأتيني بمثال فاصل. An example where one could actually strip his own self of Iman. Before the month of Ramadan. Joking and mocking, ridiculing the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. I mentioned 6 conditions yesterday in the lecture, and likewise in the khutbah on Friday. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll speak about joking and April Fool's Day in Masjid Furqan Hounslow next Thursday, inshallah. Was the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam a moody, gloomy, dejected, despondent individual? Or was he somebody who used to smile and laugh and maybe even joke with his companions? Somebody who was bubbly. Was he that? Was he not? Mention ample of examples next week, Thursday, inshallah ta'ala, with also the conditions. But one of them, brothers and sisters, mocking the deen of Allah, that has become such a norm. You find memes, right, going around, especially on TikTok. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to close down this application. I really do. It's nothing but shut up on the Muslim Ummah. Especially on there. Before it was Instagram, it used to go around. I know what the sad thing is. Practicing people are seeing these videos, spectating to it with laughter. We find it funny. Every month there's a video that goes around of, I don't know if they're Indonesians or Malaysians, right? And they're probably doing this tadayyun and believing they're getting closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. And then somebody comments and he says, Firari Taraweeh, lol. Have you guys come across that video before? He's praying so quickly, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. He might finish 11 raka'at in less than 2 minutes. And then practicing Muslims who pray their salawat are looking at this, laughing and joking. Oh, what a laugh. How funny. How is that funny? Min a'zam al-sha'air. From the greatest of acts of worship. And many scholars say it's the bare minimum that keeps you in Islam. Bare minimum. After the shahada, you have to come at least with salah. If you don't wear hijab, if you don't fast, if you don't go for hajj, and you die upon that, maybe there's a possibility that Allah will forgive you. However, with the salah, because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-ahdu alladhi baynana wa baynahum as-salah man taraka faqad kafar." The difference between us and them is the salah. Whoever leaves with the salah, he is a kafir. Gal. He's not a Muslim. There's no difference between Muhammad who doesn't pray and Michael and Bob and Jane and Juliet. According to many scholars. You ask some of the scholars today, "Ma hukm man taraka as-salah?" They'll say, "This guy is not a Muslim, don't pray on him." This is a huge view that is out there, favored by many of the scholars, like Imam Ahmad and other than him. Because the Prophet said the difference between us and them. Who's them? The agnostic, the atheist, the Buddhist, the Jew. The difference between us and them is the salah. The Sahaba, if they saw a woman not wearing hijab, they said, oh, maybe she's new Muslim. If they saw someone not going for Hajj, maybe he's poor, he doesn't have any money. If he wasn't fasting, oh, maybe he's ill. They had excuses, they had husnul dhan for the believer. But when it came to the salah, it wasn't like that. Abdullah ibn Shaqiq al-Uqayli, what did he say? كانوا لا يرون شيئا من الأعمال تركوا كفرا غير الصلاة. They never used to see an act that was abandoned to be kufr other than the salah. That's how the Sahaba they saw it. Abdullah ibn Shaqiq al-Uqayli ينقل هذه transmits this. Who met the companions. The reason why I was extremely passionate about this topic, right, is because it's like today people believe that you can't joke unless you lie. Just yesterday, Ustadh Umar, who mashallah knows the 10 qira'at from Manchester, was telling me this. He was advising his little sister, telling her, shouldn't joke like that. And she was saying, Umar, but you can't joke without lying. Many years ago, I remember a relative came up to me and he said, your grandmother fell off the balcony. How do you think that's going to make me react? I'll be in a state of shock, sah. And then he says to me, April Fool's Day, and he runs off. And he runs off. مع الأسف الشديد. هل يجوز هذا? Is this permissible? Today on TikTok, you'll see children making jokes of their parents. يصرح, and he's recording them. He's recording his parents, then he puts it on social media. عجيب. أين تذهبون? Where are you going? Or just shocking people. Maybe while he's sleeping, he comes and takes water and he slaps in his face. And we as Muslims who might not do this, we are what? Spectating, sending around. The Shahid, me mentioning this, was the first point. Mocking the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. You might mock the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal on the 1st of April. And you're walking to Taraweeh, because it could be Ramadan on the 2nd of April, صح? You walk into Taraweeh, Allahu A'lam if this person is a Muslim or not. لأنه استهزأ بدين الله. What is my evidence for saying that mocking the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, even if you're joking, will take you out of the fold of Islam? Allah says in the Quran, وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ, if you ask them, لَيَقُولُنَّ إِنَّمَا كُنَّا نَخُوضُ وَنَلْعَبُ. You ask them, why they were doing this or why they were uttering this, they would say we're only playing, joking, having a laugh, making the time go by or past. قُلْ أَبِ اللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ وَرَسُولِهِ كُنْتُمْ تَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. Say to them, Muhammad, you make jokes about Allah, you ridicule the deen, the ayat, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. لا تعتذر. No excuses. No excuses. Don't tell me you were joking or playing around. قَدْ كَفَرْتُمْ بَعْدَ إِيمَانِكُمْ. You have disbelieved after Iman came to you. What time is Isha? 9:15. طيب. Are you brothers with me and sisters? So there are two things that one needs to abstain from. When you look at the technical meaning, what does it say? إمساك مخصوص من شخص مخصوص في زمان مخصوص بنية مخصوصة. To withhold from something specific. Food, drink, sexual intercourse, that which breaks your fast. And not only that, staying away from the things that is going to reduce that which you attain from the month of Ramadan of reward. في زمان مخصوص, and also a specific time, because you don't fast for 24 hours. From what? Fajr all the way up until Maghrib. بنية المخصوص, and also with a specific intention. You have to make an intention every night, according to the majority of the scholars. And it could be any part of the night, starting from Maghrib all the way up until Fajr. And as Ibn Taymiyyah mentions, just merely thinking about it, that you want to be fasting, that you just pass it through, khalas. That's enough. Min shakhs makhsoos. Also from a specific person. You know what also a very common question is? I didn't know that I needed to fast. Should I make it up now? Young brothers, mashallah, the fact that they're asking the question shows that they're eager. Because wallah, I didn't know, I was still the age of 14. What are some of the signs that you've now reached the age of puberty? Because I can see a lot of young brothers here as well. Man ya'rif? Pubic hair. Where? In your private area. هو الشعر الخشن. The rough type of hair that appears. You see some of you guys smiling and giggling. Huh? هذا دين الله. We have to discuss it. We have to speak about it. If they're teaching our kids in school about same-gender marriages, why should I be shy of mentioning this? Sahih? Hadith Salama. She says, Sulaim came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she said, Ya Rasulullah, فهل على المرأة الغسل إذا احتلمت? Does a woman need to take ghusl, a purificatory bath, when she has a wet dream? Salama done this. Oh dear. And what did she say? إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَسْتَحِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Allah is not shy of the truth. The Messenger of Allah responded back and he said, نعم إذا رأت الماء. If she sees that the place is wet, then yes, she has to do it. Brothers and sisters with me? So we ask these questions. Even Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she said, نعم النساء نساء الأنصار لم يمنعهن الحياء من التفقه في الدين. Shyness did not stop them from getting an understanding in the religion. Didn't stop them. Two people don't learn. The arrogant and who? Shy one, as Mujahid ibn Jabr mentioned. لا يتعلم العلم مستحي ولا مستكبر. Arrogant person thinks he knows. Shy one is very shy to ask. So we have to ask these questions. You need to know, brothers and sisters as well. This is what is going to save you in your grave. And sometimes you might be personally shy. What do? You can ask somebody else to do that for you. Imam Bukhari chapter Babu man istahya fa amr ghayru bis-su'al. Whoever is shy and then he asks someone else to ask on his behalf. And that's exactly what Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu done when he had a query about some sort of discharge that comes out of his private part. You guys with me? So that was the first one. Hair appearing one's private part area. Second one, if they reach the age of 15. What's the dalil? Where'd you get this number from? Why can't it be 14? Hi, Mashaykh.
Is it the actions will be counted from that age?
From that age? Yeah. Saying the action might be counted from that age. Anyone else? I want to know 15 specifically. Wallahi, the brother said they normally become mature at that age. In today's day and age, or in the age of the companions. Wallahi, with the era of social media, a lot of old people have become extremely childish. If you find elders behaving like kids on TikTok, ماذا نتوقع من الصغار? What do we expect from the youngsters? The older person is wriggling himself, acting all weird and ajib.
Is it, Allah Alam, I think it's the dalil from where they use hadith where after the age of 15, the mother is no longer responsible for the child if he misses salah.
I'll give you guys the dalil, inshallah ta'ala. Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, he says, عرضت على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنا ابن 14 سنة. I was put in front of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam to check as to whether I can participate in jihad at the age of 14. فلم يأذن لي في يوم أحد, Battle of Uhud. And then عرضت على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في الخندق, which happened after the Battle of Uhud, right? And I reached the age of 15. فأجازني, and he allowed me to participate in the Battle of Uhud. In some narration says, وَلَمْ يَرَنِي بَلَغْتُ. He didn't see me to have reached the age of puberty. You brothers with me? So we have 2 now. No. What's the third one?
Wet dream.
Wet dream. Jameel. Allah says in the Quran, وَإِذَا بَلَغَ الْأَطْفَالُ مِنْكُمُ الْحُلُمَ فَلْيَسْتَأْذِنُوا. When they reach the age of puberty, then let them seek permission. Once they have their wet dream, it comes from the term ihtilam. Let them now seek permission. You brothers and sisters with me? What about hair appearing under your armpit? What do you guys think? Is that it's not a sign? Ya Jama'ah. Nahm is Hadith Atiyat al-Quradi, right? While the battle was taking place, they would check if there was hair on the armpits of their opponents. And if it appeared, they would deal with them. However, Atiyah, he says, when that happened to me, I didn't have any hair. فَخُلِّيَ السَّبِيلِ. They left me alone. They didn't do anything. Of course, they became Muslim later on. Right? So these are 3 signs. And of course, the woman, she has an extra sign as well when the hayd, when the menses appears. Right? Or pregnancy, well, that's very, no, I shouldn't say far-fetched. I remember when I was at school, we had young girls becoming impregnated. طيب. How long do I have, Sheikh Abdul Fattah? You guys tired? Do you want to quickly stand up in the star jumps and sit back down? طيب. I was going to go into travel and things like that, but maybe someone's going to ask that question. I'm going to discuss certain points that I think are from the common issues. And they asked me this question yesterday in Manchester. Right, and I'm going to make it interactive. I don't like just sitting here and just delivering a class, especially like I see a lot of young brothers here. And also because Sheikh Abdul Fattah, he announced it to be as a lecture. I'm going to make it extremely intense and technical. Some of the things that are going to break your fast. Some of the things are going to break your fast. Does looking at haram break your fast? I'm going to use these 2 terminologies. There's one, when we say reduce the reward, okay? And of course that does, looking at haram. However, just looking, will it break your fast? He said it depends. Haya? Intentionally? Then after looking, what happens? Something comes out. طيب. Now it's getting real. Again, it's from the questions that we receive from time to time. Let's speak about another. We can maybe, inshallah ta'ala, put into 3 different scenarios. Number 1. Looking continuously at something that he shouldn't be looking at, which then leads to him ejaculating. Some people say, Wallahi, I didn't do anything with myself. Right? I just looked. And again, it's one of those things, brothers. and sisters, that is the root cause, and the root cause of it, afwan, is social media. He's looking at things he shouldn't be looking at, which then leads to that which is far worse. I'll call it adult content. You see? Adult content. Even in the month of Ramadan, he says, I'm not touching or not doing anything, but he fell into looking at that, and then he ended up what? Ejaculating. Is my fast still intact or not? Huh, brothers? Is his fast intact? He kept on looking, which then led to that. The fast is broken. And also you destroy the reward. Because earlier what did he say? That that's the first scenario. Second scenario.
So what if someone didn't look, but they use their imagination?
I'm coming to that. Don't worry, I'm going to mention all the scenarios. Second scenario, brothers and sisters. If one just looks once and then he releases. This guy's weak, huh? He looked once and then he ended up ejaculating. Does it break his...
How long did he look for?
No, he just looked, a glance, and then he ended up...
It depends. Some they say it's different. But if there's money involved, then some...
We're speaking about money here.
Yeah. If there's money, it breaks his fast and then he has to do qada. And some say there's kafar as well.
Jameel. Right? If you guys think, why is the speaker today discussing these kind of things? Brothers, it's in, and sisters, the books of fiqh. لابد أن نتطرق إلى هذا. And I'll say this again. If they are teaching our kids about same-gender marriages in school, why should we shy away from these kind of things? Are we going to just wait for our young brothers and sisters, right, to keep falling into this year in, year out, and they don't even know that they're breaking the fast? As it came in the hadith, right? إنما مثلي ومثل أمتي كرجل استوقد نارا فجعلت الدواب والفراش يقعن فيه وأنا آخذ بحجزكم وأنتم تتقحمون فيه. Mr. sallallahu alayhi wasallam drew a parable. Like me and also my ummah, Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam is saying. Like a man who lit a fire. What happens when you light the fire in a forest? You find all the insects and the bugs, they rush towards it, sah? Likewise, when you go to somewhere like maybe Somalia or Yemen, where it's hot, the mosquitoes, when they see that there is a light inside of the house, they come rushing towards you. Wala la? And they squeeze your blood. Sahih? And then Mr. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the example of me and you, you have a man who is throwing himself into the hellfire. My ummah is throwing himself in the hellfire. And I'm holding on to your ma'wis, your lower garment. In Urdu they say lungi. Sahih? Imagine now the Prophet ﷺ holding on to your lower garment and you're running away from him, throwing yourself in the hellfire. Think about that when we sin. We're running towards the hellfire and the Messenger ﷺ is holding on to us. That's the eagerness that he had of wanting to save his ummah. And then someone might say to me, why are you discussing these topics? I'm going to wait for the people to enter into hellfire? Labud. It has to be discussed. So that was the first scenario. Sorry, the second scenario. Does it break? No, it doesn't. Why doesn't it? Because the Messenger ﷺ said, when he was asked about an-nadratul faj'ah, the glance, the unexpected look, you're walking and then you see a woman. What did the Messenger ﷺ say? Israf basarak. Move your eyes away. We take from that the first glance is ma'fuun anhu. It's been pardoned. You guys with me? So that doesn't break it. However, you keep looking, don't think you can cheat Allah. Don't think you can cheat Allah Azza wa Jal. يعلم خائنة الأعين ما تخفي الصدور. Allah knows the deceptive eye. He knows the deceptive eye. And He knows that which is hidden in the hearts. يخادعون الله. They deceive themselves. Or they think they can deceive Allah Azza wa Jal, but they can't. ما يخدعون إلا أنفسهم. But they're only what? Deceiving themselves. Are you brothers and sisters with me? If you think you can get away with the creation, don't think you're going to get away from Allah Azza wa Jal. يوم تبلس سرائر. The day when the secrets will become apparent and exposed. And what you really intended will be shown to the people. Scenario number 3. One, he's looking. He doesn't ejaculate semen, but rather that which comes out is something called midi. Does everyone have an idea what midi is? Pre-ejaculation. The fluid that comes out when one becomes aroused. When one becomes aroused. And that type of fluid, brothers and sisters, is najis. It is impure. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, كُنْتُ رَجُلًا مَذَّاءً. I was somebody who used to have excessive urethral discharge. At the time of fondling with the opposite gender, with your spouse, when one becomes aroused, that fluid comes out. And that breaks your wudu. And it also impurifies whatever it comes in contact with. Just for everyone's information, inshallah. Does it break your fast? What do you guys think? He was looking, he kept on looking, and that came out. The semen didn't come out.
He has a problem.
Huh?
He has a problem.
What do you mean he has a problem?
He has a problem. There's no sweat.
No, he's looking at haram, or he's looking at his wife, he's just staring at her.
With desire.
With desire, lust. According to the Hanabila, it does. But the majority, it doesn't. The majority of the scholars, it doesn't. And perhaps that is the stronger view, and the more favorable view, because there isn't anything in particular that states that. That doesn't actually give him pleasure. والله لأمور ما everyone's شافعي هي فخلي يعني أنا مسجد صومالي شافعي صوم هذا شافعي صح. And also hadith Qudsi, right? What did Allah Azza wa Jal say? يَدَعُ طَعَامَهُ وَشَرَابَهُ وَشَهْوَتَهُ مِنْ أَجْلِي. He leaves the food and drink and his shahwa for my sake. Food, drink and shahwa. When somebody now keeps staring at something and then he ejaculates, hasn't he fulfilled his shahwa? His desire? Hasn't he relieved himself? Do you guys agree? Because of that, they say, when somebody now relieves himself, whether it is by looking or whether it is by him touching himself, it all breaks it. The question that our brother asked, what if an individual is thinking about it, sitting there, daydreaming, thinking, and eventually it comes out? Does it break? من يخالف ومن يوافق. But he's not uttering anything and he's not acting upon anything. He doesn't do anything. He's not looking at anything haram. It's thoughts. So you're saying we should hold him to account for thinking.
Like the deceptive person who's doing it, he thinks that he found a loophole, but then after he's just trying to fulfill his desires either way, one way or the other.
You guys are saying it might go back to the intention. That's what I was going to mention. إن الله تجاوز عن أمتي ما حدثت به أنفسها ما لم يقل أو يعمل به أو يعمل. Allah Azza wa Jal has pardoned the one who, when he thinks about something or he talks to himself about hadith al-nafs, right? As long as he doesn't utter it and he doesn't act upon it. You brothers and sisters with me? So because he's not looking at something, because he's not saying anything, and because he's not using his hands or whatever, that's what the scholars they say. However, this whole intention thing, I might have to double check it. Someone intentionally, it's a good thing. So I'm gonna, it's a good one, inshallah.
When you ejaculate, it's not getting what he's looking for.
Wallahi, that's true. That's very true. It's very, very true. Doesn't he end up fulfilling his desires? It's, طيب, another question. Question that was asked yesterday when I was in Manchester was, what is the extent that, or what can a man and a wife do with one another while they are fasting?
Touch or something like that, because of the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha. She said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to do mubashara, but then in this case of the hadith, touch and not sexual intercourse, and he was doing like best to like hold his desires.
طيب جميل. حديث عائشة رضي الله تعالى عنها, she said كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يباشر وهو صائم ويقبل وهو صائم ولكنه أملككم لإربه. What did the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم do? He used to fondle with his wife. Right? He would fondle with his wife. I think everybody knows what that is, right? Or shall I translate that? Like when you play and when you get touchy with your wife. وَيُقَبِّلُ وَهُوَ صَائِمٌ. And he also used to kiss while fasting. وَلَكِنَّهُ أَمْلَكَكُمْ لِإِرْبِهِ. But he was in more control of his lust and desires than all of you. There's also another narration. أهوى إلي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ليقبلني. One time the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم started coming towards me and he wanted to kiss me. So now Aisha radiallahu ta'ala, she said, Ya Rasulullah, أنا صائم عفوا. I'm fasting. And then he said, أنا صائم أيضا. I'm also fasting. فقبلني, ended up kissing me. Sallallahu was romantic, huh? Alayhi salatu wassalam. Sometimes you need that in the house. Right? Jameel. And then there's also another narration. Sunnah Nabi Dawud. A man came to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam and he asked about mubasharat al-zawj, fondling with the wife. And he said, okay, it's fine, you can do it. And then another man came up to him and he asked, he said, no. Why is he saying here it's allowed but there it's not? Huh? One is stronger than the other. Allahu Akbar. Huh? Huh?
Because one of them was old and nine and control himself, and the other one was more young.
Other was more young. Hafid al-Hakimi, in his poem Wasilat al-Husul ila Muhimmat al-Usul, is 640 lines of poetry. Whoever wants a more intense manzuma or usul al-fiqh studies, instead of waraqat, you can maybe memorize that. He says, وَمِنْهُمَا لِعِلَّةٍ قَدْ حَكَمَا ثُمَّ بِضِدِّهِ لِمَنْ قَدْ عَدِمَا كَقُبْلَةِ الصَّائِمِ عَنْهَا قَدْ نُهِي ذُو شَهْوَةٍ وَرُخِصَ لِغَيْرِهِ. Sometimes the Messenger ﷺ might allow something in a certain scenario and then not allow it in another scenario. And that is because there is a particular reasoning that's there. What is the reasoning here? That he allowed this one and he didn't allow the other? Shaykh Abdul Fattah mentioned. This one was older, the other was younger. The one who's old in age, is able to control his desires better than the young one. As long as that reasoning is present, we would say don't. Which is the, lust and desire. And that's why I always advise brothers and sisters, don't get married in the month of Ramadan. Wallahi al-azim, serious. Otherwise you're going to have kafarat, one after the other. There's a funny clip of Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan being asked about a man, I believe he got married in the month of Ramadan, and then he had intimacy with his wife, and then again, and then again, and then everyone starts laughing. And he was like, he has to do one kafara after the next, and then after the next, and then after the next. Brothers, with my condition, I don't think at this moment in time I can even do maybe 5-6 fasts in a day, let alone 2 months. I don't think most people can do 2 months in a row. Do you guys agree? Fantabih. So you can maybe, inshallah ta'ala, put the issue of kissing into 3 different categories. First category is sometimes a peck on the cheek and then you leave your house. Is that something that is allowed? La bas. Right? Kissing the spouse and then just leaving. Or sometimes, a peck on the cheek, the mother or your daughter, there's nothing wrong with that type of qubla. This is mentioned in the books of fiqh, brothers and sisters. Nothing wrong with that. Number 2. Kissing, if you know you're going to be someone who becomes aroused. It's going to what? Intensify your lust. Should you be kissing in this scenario? Just try to stay away from it. Hanabila, they say, is makruh. يكره للصائم جمع الريق مع بلع وذوق للطعام أو يضع الكلم فيه ماضغا القبلة ونحوها لمن تثور الشهوة. Is that clear? He says from the makruhat, disliked. Some say no, you shouldn't. Third scenario, if one thinks that he's going to ejaculate. Some scholars from amongst them, the Hanabila as well, they say it's haram for one to go and engage in kissing his wife. Again, very common question. Very, very common question. Even sometimes wives ask this question saying, Wallahi, he asked and I just gave in. No. Right? If now leads to sexual intercourse and both of them engaged in it, that's another discussion as well. Earlier I mentioned what? The kafara, the expiation. I remember when Shaykh Salih ibn Abdul Aziz said, As'al Allah yahfadah. I would teach in fiqh, aqeedah and also usul fiqh. He came to the UK as well. He's originally Asian. But he's a teacher. He used to be teaching the Prophet ﷺ's masjid. He said, even if it means that this wife, she puts on a hijab and she leaves the house, she should do that. Don't just say, Wallah, he asked and I just gave in. La. Especially if you know now this is now going to lead to what? Sexual intercourse and so on and so forth. Expiation may possibly be for both of them. End up being for both of them. Are you brothers and sisters with me? And then some of them they say, Wallah, I knew you shouldn't do it, but I just didn't know the expiation. Again, la, ma yasrah. There's no excuse. You know it's wrong. And then the third scenario, we mentioned 3 scenarios, sahih? No. I'm going to, inshallah ta'ala, open the floor if anyone has any questions. I know a lot of the things will come up, right? And inshallah, I want our brother Adam to give maybe 2-3 minutes. He's leaving, inshallah ta'ala. A farewell reminder to everybody, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. He studies at the university. MashaAllah, very enthusiastic in giving da'wah. Some of you guys may know him on Instagram, social media, giving us, inshallah, a farewell reminder that we can all benefit from. Maybe something that he's experienced while he's been here, because he's been going around the country collecting money for an orphanage in Gambia, just something that is very praiseworthy. Giving reminders, calling to Allah Azza wa Jal, inshallah. Tfaddalu, who has the question? Tfadal.
Those things like unsi for
Unsi. No. Poetry says, وكل عين يدخل الجوف سوى إحليله مفطر على سوى كالأكل والشرب وكاستعاطي وكابتحال الفمض باحتياطي. Right? Say anything that enters كل عين يدخل الجوف, that enters into a person's interior. That enters into a person's interior. Anything that goes in from the entrances of one's body. You have an entrance through your nose. You have an entrance through your ear. It would break it. Are you brothers and sisters with me? Any substance that goes in, whether it is a normal one or an abnormal type of substance, whether it is something that is edible and something that is not. Normally the example that I give, and I know some of you guys may laugh, but it's a real scenario. Swallowing drugs in the month of Ramadan because you're smuggling it into another country. You think that is realistic? Wallahi, we have brothers who deal with drugs and they fast. So I feel like I have to mention it. Even though this is haram, this is wrong. May Allah Azza wa Jal guide them. There was a period when I was teaching in East London, guys who deal with drugs were attending a class. The leading drug dealers in East London sometimes used to come to the class. Wallahi al-Azim. And I would mention it. Sometimes even in the month of Ramadan, of course that's going to what? Destroy the reward that you attain from the month of Ramadan. But he's still fasting, he still doesn't want Ramadan to go by. Are we going to say to him, don't fast because he's dealing with drugs? Is that what we're going to say to him? La. Fast. Pray. Perhaps the prayer, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. The salah will remove the filth and the evil from one's life. Are you brothers and sisters with me? You might see the police and then you've got something and he swallows it. Does it break? Anything that enters into your interior, edible or not, is going to break it. Now let me come to this question. The reason why I open the floor because it allows me to cover other masail as well. Alhamdulillah, we just took another important masala. What he asked about taking something into your nose. Taking something into your nose. If one is going out his way to sniff it in, that would break it. Because the scholars in the books of fiqh, they speak about, for example, you know the flour. What happens when you hit the flour? Comes out, right? Do we say it breaks his fast? If it accidentally goes in, nah. However, if he intentionally takes it in, or the unsi, the scent, he smells it in, would he break it? Yes, it would, because this is now an entrance, and this is a substance that is going into his nose. Likewise, if one is now taking in smoke, would it break it? Yes, it would. However, if you are now passive smoking, do we know what passive smoking is? When you're sitting at the bus stop, and then the guy next to you is just inhaling, and then you, subhanAllah, are at more danger than him, because you're breathing in accidentally or unintentionally his smoke. Would that break it? No, it wouldn't. If it's just coming in and then it goes in and then accidentally, unintentionally. واضح? Does that answer your question?
What about food?
Smelling it? Wallahi, that's a good one. Wallahi, Allahu A'lam. He's going out his way to just double check, because what the fuqaha mention in their books is ذوق الطعام. Tasting the food, like the one who's cooking. As long as it doesn't reach the throat, it's fine. That doesn't mean you end up having half of the bag. Oh, let me taste. Was it nice or not? La. Talking about, did it have enough salt? Fuqaha, they mention labas. And I believe there is a statement of Abdullah ibn Abbas, one of the companions, that's completely crossed my mind with regards to this issue.
What about toothpaste?
Oh, very good. They do qiyas ala al-ilk. They mention in the books of fiqh, ilk, which is a type of substance that they used to chew in ancient times. Okay? They say, if this is a type of substance that one chews, which then spreads and dissolves to the rest of his mouth, and it reaches the throat, it would break it. And of course, because toothpaste is what? A contemporary issue. خرجوها على هذه المسألة. They didn't have toothpaste back in the day. They had something called ilk that they just used to sometimes chew on. That's why the Hanabila in the lines of poetry they say يكره للصائم جمع الريق مع بلع وذوق للطعام أو يضع إلكا بفيه ماضغا والقبلة. Right? Ilk, just chewing on that substance, they say it's makruh. However, if it's one of those things that people chew on that now dissolves and reaches one's throat, that would break it. Can we say now that toothpaste is of that kind as well? Do you guys agree? When you use toothpaste, it dissolves in the mouth and then it reaches the throat. I always tell the brothers and sisters, there's a lot of discussion. It's best that you avoid it. It is best that you avoid toothpaste in the month of Ramadan just to take the safer option. Right? احتاطت لدينك. Take the ahwat. You brothers and sisters with me? No. Just taking the safer opinion, which is that. Because also you have the hadith, لا خلوف فم الصائم أطيب من ريح مسك, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, the smell, today you breathe after not having brushed your teeth, and you breathe in somebody's face, what's he going to say? It's not a pleasant smell, is it? But this is what أطيب عند الله. It's more what? Better and greater to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than musk. Allahu Akbar. But inshallah, you can brush your teeth before you go to Taraweeh. Instead of standing next to the guy next to you, yeah? No. My Somali is good, right? I learned in Leicester. Yeah. I'll come to you. Yeah. Sorry. I should be doing taqdeem. Actually, I'm going to go to him because he's older. جاء حديث جبريل أتاني جبريل فأمرني أن أقدم الأكابر. Prophet ﷺ said, Jibreel came to me and he told me to give precedence to who? To those who are older in age. تفضل شيخ. He's a young brother, أخي. Don't make him old, أخي. Well, when it comes to the inhaler, of course, right, the poet, he says, Imam al-Sa'di in his قواعد الفقهية, ويفعل البعض من المأمور إن شق فعل سائر المأمور. Right? You do that which you are capable of from the things that you've been commanded with, if the rest is difficult. Now, if I don't take my inhaler, what's going to happen to me, brothers, sisters? I might have an asthma attack. And does the Sharia encourage you to have an asthma attack? No, it doesn't. وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Whatever I commanded you with, then try to fulfill it to the best of your ability. Right? If you are an old man or you're sick or your leg is hurting, you can do most of the things in the salah, like standing, but you just can't go into sujood. Do we say pray sitting down? No, you have to come with what you can. If you can start your prayer standing up, then you have to. But you can't do the sujood. وَيَفْعَلُ الْبَعْضَ مِنَ الْمَأْمُورِ إِنْ شَقَّ فِعْلُ سَائِرِ الْمَأْمُورِ. You sit down for that which you can't. Likewise here, right? If he needs his asthma pump every single day in Ramadan, we're going to say to him, don't take it. And put his life at risk? La wallah. We're not. So he tries to fear Allah as well to the best of his ability. واضح? Does that answer your question, Sheikh? تفضل. I think, how long do we have left? Can you somewhere bring that chair? I want Adam to give a farewell advice, inshallah. Yeah? Yeah, بعد العشاء خلاص. طيب ابشر. Inshallah, you stand on the minbar and then give a reminder to everyone, inshallah. By the way, wallahi, brothers and sisters, I'm really happy to be here. This masjid is very dear to my heart. And I really thank the organizers for having given me this opportunity to come here. I used to come a very long time ago, 2015. I remember gave a khutbah here as well. We even held studying the deen. I taught the whole of Arba'in al-Nawawiyah here in 4 days. I remember the sun was really destroying me. Remember I taught here. فَجَزَاكُمُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا يَا مشايخ for giving me the opportunity to come here after a very long time. تفضل.
Do you want to take my question? Or?
Yeah, take it. تفضل.
For the traveler, is it better for him to break the fast even though he's able to fast? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered it. So is it better for him to keep the fast or to break it?
And you're talking about somebody who's able.
Yes.
Because if he's not able, there's 3 different scenarios. Somebody who's able to fast. Is it better for him to break it or is it better for him to fast? اختلف العلماء في هذه المسألة. You have the majority of the scholars, they have a view. And then you have the Hanabila by themselves. Right? Don't worry guys, when the Hanabila by themselves is not because they don't have a dalil. Ashab al-dalil. Right? They use as evidence hadith Hamza ibn Amr al-Aslami radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, al-hadith fi Sahih Muslim. He came to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and he said, إِنِّي أَجِدُ بِقُوَّةٍ عَلَى الصِّيَامِ فِي السَّفَرِ فَهَلْ عَلَيَّ جُنَاحٌ. I have the strength and the ability to fast when I'm traveling. Is there a sin upon me? The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he responded back by saying, هِيَ رُخْصَةٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ فَمَنْ أَحَبَّ أَنْ يَصُومَ فَحَسَنٌ وَمَنْ أَفْطَرَ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِ. He asked him, فَهَلْ عَلَيْهِ جُنَاحٌ. Is there a sin upon me? He said, هِيَ رُخْصَةٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. Right? This is a legislated concession from Allah. Whoever wants to fast, let him fast and it's a good thing. And whoever doesn't, breaks his fast, there's no harm upon that as well. Why do they say rukhsa? Why do they say that this is a stronger view? Because there's another hadith when the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ أَن تُؤْتَى رُخَصَهُ كَمَا يُحِبُّ أَن تُجْتَنَبَ مَعَاصِيهِ. Allah loves for you to take the legislative concession. The majority of the scholars, they use 2 other hadith. I believe it's the hadith of Anas Malik radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, right? كُنَّا نُسَافِرُ مَعَ النَّبِيِّ صلى الله عليه وسلم وَمِنَّا مُفْطِرٌ وَمِنَّا صَائِمٌ. Some of us were fasting and some of us were not fasting. وَلَمْ يُعِبَ الصَّائِمْ عَلَى الْمُفْطِرِ وَالْمُفْطِرِ عَلى الصَّائِمِ. Nobody would criticize the other. And the hadith I'm going to mention inshallah ta'ala, one last hadith inshallah. Hadith, I believe hadith Anas as well. إِن كَانَ أَحَدُنَا لَيَضَعَ يَدَهُ عَلَى رَأْسِهِ مِنْ شِدَّةِ الْحَرِّ. We were traveling and because of how hot it was, we would put our hands here. Try to cover ourselves. وَمَا فِينَا صَائِمٌ إِلَّا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ عَبْدُ اللَّهِ بْنُ رَوَاحَةَ. No one from amongst us was fasting other than the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, also Abdullah ibn Rawaha. And they said, look, the fact that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is doing it is better. Ala kulli hal. Right? Perhaps the stronger view is that you do what is best for you. But either way, you have not gone against the sunnah or anything like that. Having said all of that, you still have the concession to break it simply because you are a traveler. من كان مريضا وعلى سفر فعدة من أيام أخر. جزاكم الله خيرا وأحسن الله إليكم. Inshallah, just for a couple of minutes, our brother Adam will give us a reminder. Inshallah,